So bread pudding is just one of those classic desserts that's great with any meal. This is my recipe, so I'm excited to share it with y'all. Okay, so I've started with 8 beaten eggs. I'm gonna add in a half a cup of sugar. I like to add the sugar into the eggs first because I think it just helps incorporate the eggs a little better and it helps the sugar dissolve. And then I go ahead and add in 2 teaspoons of cinnamon because I like to make sure that that gets incorporated. Okay, I'm going to add in 4 tablespoons of melted butter. When you beat your eggs, you want to make sure that they're really loosened before you start adding in the other ingredients because sometimes it just makes it harder to mix a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Okay, and then we're going to add in 4 cups of heavy whipping cream. So this, it's kind of like a custard, and it's very decadent, very flavorful. But I really like this recipe because it's just so simple. Okay. Make sure and get that really mixed well. You want to do that way you don't have like any places where it's just cream or just egg. Okay, so you can use any bread with this, but I prefer French bread, especially like day-old bread. That's really great. And I never really liked this recipe until I made it with French bread. It's really delicious. So I took a whole loaf of French bread and then I cut it into like 1 inch or so pieces and I put it in a buttered 9x13 pan, okay? So we're gonna take all of this mixture and pour it over the bread and it's just gonna seem like a lot, okay? Like how is this even gonna fit in this pan? But it will. Because as it sets, that bread is really going to absorb this egg mixture or custard. Okay, now let me grab Okay, so then what you're going to do once you get it in the pan, you're going to want to sit and press all of the bread down into the mixture to make sure that it fully coats all of the bread. Oh, it smells so good. Okay. Now, a lot of people like raisins with this, but my family is not a big fan of raisins in their dessert. So I always put about a half a cup or so of chopped pecans over the top. And then like a half a cup or so of chocolate chips. Instead of the raisins, it just gives it a whole nother flavor. And I absolutely love it. Okay, so before I bake this, I'm gonna let this sit for about 15 to 20 minutes or so. And I'm gonna occasionally press this bread down into the egg mixture because you're going to want it to absorb, absorb some of it before you bake it. And it's probably going to absorb at least half of it or so. Okay, so I'm going to get this in the oven. I'm going to bake it at 350 for 50 minutes and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I baked this until it was toasty on the top. And you want to make sure the middle of the bread pudding, when you push it, that it springs back, okay? Now for the glaze, this is my favorite part. So I'm gonna take 2 cups of powdered sugar. I'm gonna take 1 tablespoon of melted butter, 2 tablespoons of strongly brewed coffee, 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and then a teaspoon of vanilla. And a pinch of salt. The salt just kind of enhances the sweetness, brings out the flavor of everything. And the glaze in the coffee will help bring out the chocolate flavor of the chocolate chips. Let me get a whisk. That powdered sugar is not wanting to incorporate. Okay, and then so you don't want it to be too thin, but you don't want it to be so thick that it won't glaze. I've tried to spread it before and then smeared my chocolate chips everywhere. Okay, so you're just going to want to drizzle that over the bread pudding while it's still warm. And then you're just gonna let that sit for about 15 minutes or so and cool down a little bit before you serve it. So this is my recipe. I hope you love it. Let me know how you love it in the comments.